Hi, welcome back to Concept Mastery Primary 4. Today we are going to look at fractions and how do we change a mixed number into improper fractions, and then how do we change into simplest form. Alright, now what is a mixed number? A mixed number is a fraction that has a whole number with a fraction beside. So for example, this is your whole number, which is 1, right? That's one whole, and the fraction is 2 over 10. Alright, so how do I change this into improper? So you take the whole number and you times 10, alright, times the denominator, and then your answer will be 10. And then 10 plus the numerator, 10 plus 2, you get 12. So your improper fraction will be 12 over 10. So one more time, you take the whole number and you multiply by the denominator. So 1 times 10, you get 10, and then the answer you plus the numerator, plus 2, you get 12. And the denominator will always be the same, which is 12 over 10. Alright, then how do you simplify this improper fraction? You divide both numbers by 2. Alright, so when you make into simplest form, it means you want to make the numbers to be as small as possible. So 12 divided by 2, you will get 6, and then 10 divided by 2, you will get 5. And can I continue to reduce it to the simplest form? I can't. Alright, why? Because if you try to divide 6 and 5 by 2, you can't. Right? 6 divided by 2, you get 3, but 5 cannot divide by 2. So that's your simplest form already. Right? Okay, so your simplest form will be 6/5. Alright, now let's go to the next mixed number. How do I change this into improper? So you take the whole number and you times the denominator, times 6. So 2 times 6, you get 12. And then 12 plus 2, you get 14. And your denominator will always remain the same, which is 14 over 6. So how do I change it to simplest form? I divide both numbers, always divide both numbers by 2 first, right? So if you can divide by 2, then you will have your simplest form. So 14 divided by 2 is 7, and then 6 divided by 2 will be 3. So your improper fraction will be 7 over 3, alright? And can I divide by 2? Cannot. Alright, now there are a few ways to test, or there are a few ways to reduce the simplest form. You can either divide both numbers by 2. If you can't divide by 2, then you divide by 3. And if you can't divide both numbers by 3, for example 7 over 3, can I divide 3 by 3? Yes, 3 divided by 3 is 1. But can 7 divide by 3? So I can't. So that is a simplest form. So you divide by 2. If you cannot divide by 2, you divide by 3. Or if you cannot divide by 3, you divide by 5. So there are a few tests, right? There are a few things to check whether is it the simplest form. Divide by 2, divide by 3, or divide by 5. Alright, let's go to the next mixed number. So 3 times 15, alright, you always take the whole number, multiply by the denominator, and you get 45. Then 45 plus 9, you get 54, right? 45 plus 9 is 54. And then over 15, and your denominator will always be the same in your improper fraction, right? Okay, now can I divide both numbers by 2? 54 divided by 2, can. I get 27. But can 15 divide by 2? I can't. But then you must go on to the next number. Can you divide both numbers by 3? So that's how you check to see whether can you reduce the simplest form. Divide by 2. If you cannot, then how about divide by 3? So if I take 54 divided by 3 and 15 divided by 3, I will get 18 over 5, right? So can I continue to reduce it to simplest form? Then you divide by 2 again. 18 can divide by 2, but 5 cannot divide by 2. How about 18 divided by 3, but 5 cannot divide by 3? How about divide by 5? 5 can divide by 5, but 18 cannot divide by 5. So that is your simplest form already, right? Okay, let's go to the next mixed number. So 4 times 8, right? You get 32. 32 plus 3, you get 35 over 8. So that is your improper fraction. So improper fraction means the numerator is always bigger than the denominator. Okay, that's called improper fractions. Okay, then how can we reduce the simplest form? So can you divide both numbers by 2? 35 divided by 2? Cannot. Right? How about divide by 3? Cannot. Both numbers cannot divide by 3. How about divide by 5? 35 divided by 5 can. But can 8 divide by 5? Cannot. So 35 over 8 is the simplest form already. Okay? Alright, now how about changing improper into mixed number? How do we reverse back? Okay, now 7 over 5 is the same as 7 divided by 5. So when you have fractions, it's like dividing. So 7 divided by 5. So you have 1 times 5, and then you get a remainder 2. So how do you change this into a mixed number? The quotient is your whole number, and the remainder is the numerator, and the 5 is your denominator. So that is your mixed number. And is it the simplest form? Yes. How do you know that? You take 2/5, right? 2/5. Can you divide by 2, right? For both numbers? Cannot, right? Can you divide by 3? Also cannot. Divide by 5? Also cannot. So that is your simplest form already. Okay? Alright, how about 13 over 6? What is the mixed number? So you take 13 and then divide by 6. So every time you have a fraction, it is like dividing, right? So you have 1 times 6, right? And then you get the remainder. It's not 1 times 6. It's actually 2 times 6. So let's try again. So 13 over 6, or 13 divided by 6. So what do I get? So I have 2 times 6, I get 12. And the remainder is 1. So how do I change it into a mixed number? The quotient is the whole number in your fraction. The remainder is on top, and the 6 is below. So that is your simplest form. Okay? The simplest form means you have to reduce the numerator and the denominator to the smallest number until you cannot reduce anymore. That is simplest form. Alright, how about 10 over 8? So same thing, I do my dividing. 10 divided by 8. So I got 1 times 8, I get 2, which is the remainder. So how do I change it into mixed number? Whole number is the quotient, remainder is on top, and the 8 is below. Okay? Now, is this the simplest form? No, I can still divide some more. I can divide the numerator and the denominator by 2. So I divide by 2 and divide by 2. And I will get 1 and 1/4. And that is your simplest form already. Alright, now let's go to 18 over 4. So same thing, I take 18 and I divide by 4. So 4 times 4, I get 16. And my remainder is 2. Alright, so what's the mixed number? The quotient is the whole number. The remainder is on top. And the 4 is below. So you have 4 and 2/4. Right, 4 and 2 over 4. Okay, so is it the simplest form? No. I can divide the numerator and the denominator. I can divide both by 2. Right? And I will get 4 and 1 over 2. Or 4.5. That is my simplest form. Okay? So that's how you change the improper back into mixed number, by doing dividing. Okay, let's go to how to add fractions. Now, you can only add fractions when they have the same denominator. For example, 2 over 9 plus 2 over 9, and that'll be 4 over 9. So once the denominator are the same, you just add the numerators. And same thing for subtraction. You just have to make sure the denominator are the same. So 5 minus 3, you will get 2 over 12. And can I simplify the fractions? Yes. I divide the numerator by 2, and the denominator I can also divide by 2. And I will get 1/6, or 1 over 6. Alright, that is the simplest form. Okay, what happens if the denominators are different? Then you will need to make them the same. For example, 3/4 plus 1 over 12. So I have to make the denominator the same, just times 3. So 4 times 3, and then your numerator will also have to times 3. So what are you making? You are making something called equivalent fractions. Right? Fractions, they are equal. So 3 times 3, I will get 9 out of 12, plus 1 over 12. So once the denominator are the same, then you can add the numerators, which is 10 over 12. And then make sure you always simplify the fractions. Can you divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2? Yes, you can. So you have 5, 6, right? Or 5 over 6. Okay? And then how about subtraction? Same thing. You have to make the denominator the same. So 2 times 4 and 1 times 4. Okay? So now some of you like to 2 times 8, 8 times 2. And you get 16 as the denominator. Well, nothing wrong with that. But try to get something smaller. because the smaller number you have, the easier to work out the answers. So you have 1 times 4, which is 4 out of 8, minus 1 out of 8. And you will get 3 over 8, which is your fractions in the simplest form. Alright? Okay, now let's go to some more. Now, how about 1 over 10 plus 2 thirds? Alright, 1 over 10 plus 2 thirds, how to make the denominator the same? Many of you will take 10 times 3 and 3 times 10, right? Nothing wrong with that. But what I would like to do is, I will always try to find the first common multiple. So what is the first common multiple? You have 3, you have 10, alright? Now, why do I do this way? Because the purpose is to get as small number as you can, right? You want your denominator to be as small as you can, so that you don't have too big numbers, alright? You don't want your numbers to be too big. When the numbers are too big, then there is a tendency to make careless mistakes because of big numbers. Alright, so you look at the multiples of 10. 10, what's the next multiple? 20. Can 20 divide by 10? Cannot. Then go to the next multiple. Can 30 divide by 10? Can. So which means that 30 is a multiple, is a common multiple of 3 and 10. So remember in our early lesson, how you find the common multiples of 3 and 10. You look at the bigger number and you find the multiples of the bigger number. Then you see whether can 20 divide by 3? Cannot. Then go to the next multiple. Can 30 divide by 3? Can. So 30 is a common multiple. And when you do that, what happens? You skip a lot of numbers in between. Alright? Alright, so let's make the denominators to be 30. So you have 10 times 3, and then 3 times 10. Okay? And then on top, you also do the same. So 10 times 3, then 1 times 3. 3 times 10, and then 2 times 10. And then what do you get? You will get 3 out of 30 plus 20 out of 30. Alright, and once your denominator are the same, then you can plus the numerators, which is 23 out of 30. Alright, so you see the simplest form. You look at both numerators and denominators. Can you divide both by 2? Cannot. 23 cannot divide by 2. Then you go to the next test. Can you divide both by 3? 23 cannot divide by 3, so cannot. Then you go to the next test, right, to check whether can you simplify. So you divide by 5. 30 can divide by 5, but 23 cannot divide by 5. So that is your simplest form. So how do you check, or how do you reduce the simplest form? You see whether can you divide by 2, right? Can you divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2? If cannot, how about divide by 3? If also cannot, how about divide by 5? If cannot, then most likely is the simplest form already. Okay? Alright, let's go to another example. How about subtraction? Now again, many of you will take 4 times 6, 6 times 4, and you get 24. But what is the common multiple of 4 and 6? It's not 24. The first common multiple is actually 12, because 12 can divide by 4. So 12 is a common multiple of 4 and 6. So I would like to make the denominator into 12. So 4 times 3, 6 times 2. And then on top, you also do the same. And you will get 3 out of 12 minus 2 over 12. And once the denominators are the same, you can minus the fractions. And your fraction will be 1 over 12. And that's the simplest form already. Okay, got it? So purpose is to get as small numbers as you can. So I would not like to do 4 times 6 or 6 times 4, right? Because no doubt you will still get the answer, but I would like the denominators to be as small as possible. Alright, how about the next one? Number 7. Denominators are different. So what is the first common multiple? So the first common multiple will be 20. Right? And how do you know it's 20? You do this. 5, 10. Can 10 divide by 4? Cannot. 15 divided by 4? Cannot. 20 divided by 4? Can. So 20 is the first common multiple, right? So you make the denominators into 20. So you times 4, and then here you times 5. And you will get 4 times 4 is 16 out of 20 plus 5 out of 20. And then you have 21 over 20. Alright, now that is an improper fraction. So you cannot leave your answer as an improper unless a question asks you. So what do? Then you do your dividing. 21 divide by 20. If you still remember the early lesson, right? The earlier part of this lesson, how do you change the improper into a mixed number? Do your dividing, right? Do your division. So you have 1 times 20, and the remainder is 1. So how do you change it into a mixed number? The quotient is 1 whole. The remainder is on top, and the 20 is below. And that is your simplest form. Okay? Alright, another example. How do you subtract? You make the denominator the same. So I can just times 2, and then on top also times 2. And I get 6 over 8 minus 3 over 8. And my answer will be 3 over 8. Right? So that's quite easy. Alright, so what is the lesson here? Very simple. When you plus or minus fractions, or when you compare fractions, you always make the denominator the same. Right, that is the rule. Okay, that's a guideline. Alright, every time you have fractions, what do? When you plus or minus, you want to make them the same denominators. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alright, now it gets a little harder already. You have mixed number plus mixed number. Alright, so let's look at the question number 9. Alright, so to do that, you can change the mixed number into improper. So if you still remember, 1 times 7, 7, 7 plus 2, that will be 9 over 7. Then do the same thing with the other mixed number, 1 times 7, 7, then 7 plus 3, that will be 10, 10 over 7. Okay, got it? Alright, so you change the mixed number into improper, and then check to see the denominators are the same, right? They are the same, right? Then you add the fractions together, 19 over 7. And then how do you change back into mixed number? Then you do your dividing, 19, and then divide by 7. So 2 times 7, you get 14, and your remainder is 5. So you have quotient is your whole number, and then the remainder is on top, and the 7 is below. Alright, 2 and 5 over 7. Okay, how about the next one? Now the next one, you can, what do? You can change the mixed number into improper again. So you have 2 times 4, which is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11 quarter. Then you minus 2/3. Okay, minus 2/3. Alright, now you can't minus the fractions because the denominators are different. So you have to find the common denominator. So what's the common denominator? You just take 4 times 3, 3 times 4, because that is the first common multiple, which is 12. So 4 times 3, 3 times 4, 12. That is the first common multiple. And then on top, you also times 3, and then here on top, you times 4. And you will get 33 over 12 minus 8 over 12. And you will get 25 over 12. Okay, so once again, you have your improper fractions. So what do you do every time you have improper? Then you need to what? Need to change it back into mixed number. Alright? Okay, so how to change back? So let's change back. Okay, let me just write over here. Okay, maybe somewhere here. So 25 and divide by 12. So you have 2 times 12, 24. And your remainder is 1. Okay? So your mixed number will be quotient, which is the whole number, remainder is on top, and your 12 is below. 2 and 1 over 12. Alright, and make sure it's the simplest form. Okay, alright, so it's not very hard. So what is the lesson? Every time you plus fractions, if you see mixed number, then just change it into improper. And then make sure the denominators are the same. Alright, question 11. Now, you times 3, right, and then plus 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4. What do you call this fraction? 4/3. And then the mixed number, change it into improper. So you times 4, and then you plus 1. And what do you call this fraction? 5 quarters. Okay, 5 quarters. So you have 4/3 plus 5 quarters. And again, make the denominator the same. So you make the denominators into 12, which is the first common multiple. Then times 4, and then here you times 3. Okay, so 4 times 4 is 16 12 plus 15 over 12. Okay, so once the denominators are the same, add the two fractions together, 16 plus 15, that will be 31 over 12. And then you do your dividing, right? 31 divided by 12. Okay, so let's write down. And 2 times 12 is 24, and your remainder is 7. Okay, so your mixed number will be 2. Alright, quotient is the whole number, the remainder is on top, and the 12 is below. 2 and 7 over 12. And make sure that, make sure that it's a simplest form. And how do you make sure? Can you divide the numerator and the denominator by 2? Cannot, right? Only 7 can't divide by 2. Can you divide both by 3? 7 cannot divide by 3. Can you divide both by 5? 7 cannot divide by 5. 12 also cannot divide by 5. So that is your simplest form. Alright, next one. Now, 1 and 9 over 10 minus 1 and 1/5. Now, do I need to change it into improper? Well, sometimes you don't need to if you think it's quite simple, like 5 times 2 and 1 times 2. So you have 1 and 9 over 10 minus 1 and 2 over 10. So sometimes you do not have to change into improper fractions, because you can also do this way. Alright, you can also take the mixed number and you minus another mixed number. So 1 whole minus 1 whole gives you nothing. 9 minus 2 will be 7 out of 10. Alright, and that is your answer. Alright, if you don't want to change it into improper, you can also do this way. Okay, alright, let's go down to question 13. What happens if you have a whole number only? 3 wholes minus 5 over 8. What do? Take out 1 whole from 3 wholes, and you have 2 wholes left. And the 1 whole becomes a fraction with the same denominator, which is 8 over 8. That is 1 whole. So you have 2 and 8 over 8, which is the same as 3 wholes. Alright, and then you minus 5 over 8. And what do you get? 2 wholes minus nothing, you still get 2. 8 minus 5, you get 3 out of 8, which is your answer. So what happens if you have a whole number? Then you borrow 1 whole. Take out 1 whole and convert it into a fraction with the same denominator. For example, I have 4 wholes minus 7 over 10. I take out 1 whole from 4, and I have 3 wholes left. And the 1 whole becomes a fraction, which is the same denominator as 7 over 10. So I take out 1 whole and I convert it into 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 is also 1 whole. So you have 3 and 10 over 10, which is 4, right? 4 wholes. Then you minus 7 out of 10. Alright, so 3 wholes minus nothing. There's a nothing in front, which is a 0. So 3 minus nothing is still 3. 10 minus 7 is 3 out of 10. Right? So what's the answer? 3 and 3 over 10. Okay, now let's go down some more. Alright, how do we do this? So if you are stuck or ever confused, right, what do? Always change the mixed number into improper. So 2 times 3, then plus 1. So 2 times 3, 6. 6 plus 1, 7 thirds. Right, 7 out of 3. Plus 4/5. Alright, after you change it into improper already, then you change the denominator to be the same denominator. Make the denominator the same. So what's the common multiple? 3 and 5. The common multiple is 15. So 3 times 5 and 5 times 3. Alright, you want the first common multiple. And then on top, you also times 5. And then over here, you times 3. And you will get 35 out of 15 plus 12 out of 15. And once the denominator are the same, you can plus them together. 35 plus 12 will be 47 out of 15. And how to change back into mixed number? You do your long division or do your dividing. 47 divided by 15. So 3 times 15 is 45, and your remainder is 2. So what's your mixed number? 3 and 2 out of 15. Okay, got it? So every time you are stuck or you don't know how to do, just change the mixed number into improper fractions. And then just check and make sure that the denominators are the same. If they are not the same, then you make it the same. Alright, how about the next one? Now, the next one, if you want to make the denominator the same, 2 times 5 and 1 times 5. And then what do you get? You have 3 and 5 over 10 minus 7 over 10. And then what happens if you are stuck? Right? How to take 5 minus 7? Every time you are stuck, just change it into improper. So 3 times 10, 30. 30 plus 5 will be 35 over 10 minus 7 over 10. So now you can minus already. So every time you're stuck, just change it into improper. Okay, so 35 minus 7, you will get 28 over 10. And then always, alright, change back to mixed number and you divide. Okay, divide to change back to mixed number. So you have 2 times 10, which is 20, and the remainder is 8. So how do you change it into a mixed number? I think by now you should be very good already. So your quotient is the whole number, and the remainder is on top, and the 10 is below. And never leave your answer like that. If the question asks you to simplify, then you look at the numerator and the denominator. Can you divide both by 2? Yes, you can divide both by 2. And you will get 2 and 4/5, which is your simplest form. Okay, so we have learned how to plus and minus fractions. So very important thing to take notes is make sure when you add or subtract fractions, you must have the same denominator. Alright, and if you are stuck, then change the mixed number into improper fractions and then continue to plus and minus. Okay, now let's go on to next one. Okay, now we come to how to multiply fractions with whole numbers. Now when you see the word of 1/4 of 24, it means that you have to times 1/4 times 24. So your of is times. And if there's a whole number, you can change it into improper fractions. Right? Just put over 1. Okay, why do I do that? Because you are going to learn how to cancel using the cancellation method. So how to cancel? Now, you can only cancel diagonally. For example, 1 and 1 is diagonal. 4 and 24 is a diagonal pair, right? Diagonal. So you only can cancel diagonally or vertically, which you will see later. Alright, so let's look at diagonal. 4 divided by 4, right? And then can 24 divide by 4? Yes. Okay, and whatever you cannot cancel, right? What is the purpose of cancelling? The purpose of cancelling is to make the numbers smaller so that you can work out the answer faster. Alright, otherwise you have to do a lot of working. So whatever you can't cancel, which is the 1 over here, you circle, and the 6 circle, and then you multiply. 1 times 6, 6. And then bottom, there's a 1 and there's a 1. So whatever numbers you don't circle, or you did not circle, then you have to multiply. Or whatever numbers that you did not cancel, alright, did not cancel, you have to circle. Alright, because you are going to multiply those numbers that you circle. So you look at the numerators. Can you see the 1 times 6, which is 6, and then you look at the denominators, which is 1 times 1, that's 1, and your answer will be 6. Okay, that's why you can see that when you cancel the numbers, it's faster to get the answer. Alright, and another example, 3 over 8 of 16, of is times, and 16, change it into a fraction or improper fractions. And then you cancel diagonally, right? Diagonally. For example, 8 and 16 is a diagonal pair. So 8 divided by 8 and 16 divided by 8. You get 2, right? Alright, can you cancel any more? No, 3 and 1 is a diagonal pair as well, but they cannot be cancelled. They are too small to be cancelled. 1 and 2 is also a diagonal pair, so they are too small to be cancelled. So whatever that you don't cancel, you circle. Right? Circle those numbers you didn't cancel, then you multiply. 3 times 2, 6. 1 times 1 is 1. So what's the answer? 6. Okay? Alright, let's look at one more example. How about 5 over 7 of 14? So 5 over 7 of is times and 14. Alright? And how do you change the whole number into fraction? Just over 1. It becomes an improper fractions. Alright, how do you cancel? Diagonal, right? Diagonal. 7 and 14 is a diagonal pair. Divide by 7 and 14 divide by 7. And then how about 5 and 1, which is another diagonal pair? They are too small to be cancelled, so we don't cancel them. So whatever you don't cancel, you circle. So 5 times 2, 10. And then 1 times 1 is still 1. So 10 divided by 1 is 10. Okay, alright, another one. 1/5 of 60. So 1/5 times 30, sorry, 1/5 of 30. So 1/5 times 30 out of 1. So every time you want to change a whole number into a fraction, it's just over 1. Okay, diagonal. When you cancel, you always cancel diagonally, usually, all right, diagonally. So you have 5 divided by 5, and 30 divided by 5, and you get 6. So that is a diagonal, right? Diagonal pair. 5 and 30 is a diagonal pair. The other diagonal pair is 1 and 1, right? And can you see the 1 and the 1 here? They are too small to be cancelled already, so you don't cancel them, all right? And whatever you don't cancel, you circle. So you have 1 times 6, so you multiply the numerators, and then you multiply the denominators, and then 6 divided by 1 is also 6. Okay? All right, let's go down and do a bit faster. Now, how about 6 over 7 of 28? Of is times, and then times 28 over 1. Okay, so what do we do? Cancel diagonally. So divide by 7, and then 28 is the other number that is in the diagonal pair. So 28 divided by 7 is 4. And if you cannot cancel anymore already, you circle, all right, circle the numbers that you cannot cancel. So you multiply the numerators, and you multiply the denominators, right? 1 times 1, and you will get 24 divided by 1, which is still 24. Okay? So diagonal. What is diagonal? All right, for those of you, maybe if you are confused, what is a diagonal? What is a diagonal pair? This is diagonal. All right, these two numbers are diagonal. And then these two numbers are also another diagonal pair. All right, so when you cancel diagonally. Okay, all right, let's look at one last example. 2/3 times 30. Of is times. All right, 2/3 times 30. And what is your diagonal? Right, diagonal means 3 and 30. Right, it's a diagonal pair. So 3 divided by 3, 30 divided by 3, you get 10. How about the next diagonal, which is 2 and 1? Cannot cancel. They are too small to be cancelled. So whatever you cannot cancel, you circle. And then you take 2 times 10 is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. So what's the answer? 20. Okay, so that's how you learn to cancel. Okay, now let's quickly go to the last part of the lesson now. Okay, now, so how many thirds are there in 4 and 1/3? So how do you call this mixed number? This mixed number is called, or how do you name this fraction? 4 and 1/3. So how many thirds are there in this mixed number? Very simple. Whatever you don't know, you can change it into improper. So 4 times 3, 12. 12 plus 1, you will get 13 over 3. So how do you call these improper fractions? 13 thirds. So how many thirds are there in this fraction? 13 thirds. So your answer is actually 13. So you just have to make your denominator to be a third. Right? Once your denominator is a third, then what happened? Then your answer is the numerator. Okay? Alright, how many fourths are there in 2 and 1/4? So same thing. Can I change the mixed number into improper? 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9 over 4. So how do you call this fraction? 9/4. So once your fraction has quarters or fourth, can you see the fourth? How many fourth? All right. Once your fraction has a fourth, then how many quarters are there, or how many fourth are there? Your answer will be there are 9/4 or 9/4. Okay, you just have to make the denominator to be the same as what you are asked. Okay, how many thirds? Make the denominator to be a third. Make your denominator to be fourth. Alright? Okay, how many 6 are there in 1 and 1/3? So 1 and 1/3, you change it into improper as well. So you have 1 times 3, then 3 plus 1. That will be 4 thirds. Okay, this is 4 thirds. But you want how many? 6. So what do? Then you make the denominator into a 6. 3 times 2, and then 4 times 2. And that's how you get 8 over 6. Alright, 8 over 6, or 8/6. So how many 6 are there in this fraction? There are 8, right? 8/6. Okay, alright, so let's go on to the next one. How many 8 are there in 3 and 1/4? So same thing, I will change the 3 and 1/4 into improper. So I have 3 times 4 and then plus 1. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13 over 4. So how do you call this improper fraction? 13 quarters or 13 fourth. Okay, but it's not 8. So you want to make it into 8. So you change the denominator into 8. So 4 times 2 and 13 times 2. And you get 26 8. So once your denominator is 8, then how many 8 are there? 26 8. Okay, and the last one, how many half? Oh, not the last one, second last one. How many half are there in 6 wholes? Okay, so how many half? This is, you want how many half? So 6 wholes is how many half? Okay, well, now 6 wholes. So if you can draw circles, right, and then you cut the circle into half to see how many half are there. So if there are 6 wholes, then what do? Now, half. So okay, let's draw a circle, right? For those of you maybe you are not so sure. So there are 6 wholes, all right, 6 wholes, all right, 6 complete circles. Then you cut the circle into half, right, into half. So how many half are there? Then you count all the semicircles, right? How many half? There will be 12, right? So there are 12 half. Okay, so there are 12 halves. Got it? Yeah? So if you don't know how to do, what's the other method? The other method is to draw, right? Draw your shapes, draw your circles. Okay, how many fifth? How many fifth are there in 3 wholes? How many fifth? Okay, so if you don't know, then just draw your circles, right? 1 whole is a circle. 3 wholes means there are 3 circles. And then there are how many fifth? So you cut into 5 parts. So every circle you cut into 5 parts, right? Into 5 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you do the same for the others. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So every part is a fifth, right? Every part is 1/5, right? So you cut all these into 5 parts. So how many fifths are there? And you start counting the parts. So there are 5 times 3 wholes. 5 times 3. So there'll be 15, right? 15 fifth, right? 15 fifth. All right? So that's how you find how many fifths are there. So if you don't know how to do, there's a method called draw a diagram. So you just draw circles and then cut the circles into fifths. And then you can see how many fifths are there already. Okay? All right, so the first lesson on fractions is a easy lessons. All right, not very hard. In the next lesson on fractions, we'll be looking into word problems, on how to understand the word problems and how to use the fractions to draw simple model. All right, so we come to the end of our part 1 lesson. So hopefully you have a better understanding on how to handle fractions, how do you change the mixed number into improper, and how to reverse back, how to from improper back to mixed fraction, and how to add and subtract fractions. All right. So if you are still unsure, then I think you should play the video again and just watch over again. All right. So otherwise, I'll see you the next lesson. Next lesson, it'll be part 2. Right. So stay tuned to the next lesson on fractions.